First place, how about that? How about that?
You know what? I'm done. Just go to the office. How about that?
And grade my work, how about that?
Shit. Oh, okay. Out and go to the office. How about that? You know what? We're not doing a lab. We're doing a quiz. How about that?
You know what? I don't want to hear it. How about that? Shut up. How about that?
Olivia,
How about that?
the both of you can go to the office. How about that? You know what? You both are getting a 0 on this game. How about that? Maybe you should be the one that should go to the office. How about that? Let go of my hair, Olivia. How about that? Maybe you should be the one that should go to the office. How about that? How about we tie you up in that chair and let you burn? How about that? I'm gonna stick this all to the walls. How about that? Exactly, so one by one y'all are coming up here to explain your answers. How about that? Hey, enough, I don't care. You don't need to shut up and stop looking at me. How about that? Who the loudest one? Don't even. What are your plans for Saturday? This is just so enough, Jessica. You're not the teacher. Just go to the office. How about that? I'm gonna write my name on this chair. How about that? Okay, go to the office. How about that? No, I'm going home. How about that? This is why you hate this class. And you know what? I'm leaving. How about that?
It's Lucas, bro.
I'm not your fault. You know what? Stop grabbing that assignments up here. How about that? You know what? You're not going. How about that? Well, I'm going. How about that? I'm losing my 2 brain cells that I have left. You know what? I'm done. How about that?
What was it?
I wanted to show you guys this amazing place that I wanted for the 3 of us to go to for vacation, but now nobody's going. How about that? Okay, you know what? I'm done. You can throw that paper away and make your own notes. How about that?
Olivia, can you be quiet for once?
No, Joshua, you be quiet. How about that?
Olivia, you're like way off.
Your face is way off. How about that? Stop! How about that? How about that? Yup, how about guac?
Wait, what's about guac?
How about that? Okay, enough. How about that? Don't ever talk to me again. How about that?
I've had enough.
How about that? Then,
Round 1, fight.
go. I won. How about that?
Catch.
Someone just give it to me so I can see it. How about that? Are we on our phones? Put it away. How about that?
What? No, it didn't.
Can everyone stop looking at me now? How about that? Like, what the fuck? Fine, they left. Next time, I'm just gonna take your eyes out of your eye socket. How about that? Okay, I don't care. Shut up now. Be quiet. Oh, well, next time, don't bother showing me your gun ends. How about that? Okay, I need everyone to sit up straight and focus. How about that? I'm just not gonna write. How about that? Oh, I'm gonna hit you. You know what? I'm leaving. I can't. How about that?
Okay, you are taking too much space in here. You need to get out.
How about that?
The house is not clean. When I get out.
Everyone is sleeping in the garage. How about that? Yes, it was yesterday, and I got screenshots that'll shut down someone's respiratory system. How about that? Yeah, cause newsflash. If not, I'll never speak to you again. How about that?
No, you weren't. Drink it all next time. How about that?
Oh, there, it went away. How about that? Just bring it back. How about that? Annie. Oh no, I'm not leaving. I'm gonna step out the room to calm down, and when I come back, I'm beating everyone's ass. How about that?
No?
Okay.
You broke it.
Well, you can fix that all day. How about that?
Not mine. Class, I already graduated.
Class already graduated. No one gives a shit. How about that? Out in the hallway. I'll talk. If you're not done in 10 minutes, y'all are not getting a ride in your ass. Is walking to school. How about that? Cause I hate it here. Okay, bye. See y'all. Never. How about that? She looks like she'd lose a fight with a chihuahua. I'm dragging this bitch. How about that?